Commander Du-hyun stood at the wide viewing window of the Alliance flagship Morning Star *, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. The stars before him seemed dimmer than usual, as if they too felt the weight of another devastating defeat. The Dark Void Empire had just taken their 5th major system this month, and the Alliance forces were running out of places to retreat. "Commander," a soft voice called from behind him. "The latest casualty reports are ready." Do-hyun turned to face Lieutenant Hin-nul, his most trusted intelligence officer. The young lieutenant's usually neat uniform looked wrinkled, and dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept in days. Nobody had. "How bad is it?" Do-hyun asked, though he already knew the answer wouldn't be good. Hin-nul's tablet trembled slightly in his hands. "We've lost 30% of our fleet in the Nexus system alone. The Dark Void's new shielding technology makes our standard weapons almost useless." He paused, swallowing hard. "Sir, we can't keep fighting like this. Our soldiers are exhausted, and our ships are falling apart." Do-hyun nodded slowly, walking to the holographic display at the center of the bridge. He activated it with a wave of his hand, and a map of their territory appeared in glowing blue light. Red areas marked systems already taken by the Dark Void Empire. There was far too much red. "Captain Park Yunji requests permission to enter, sir," announced the bridge's AI system. "Granted," Du-hyun said, not looking up from the map. The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Captain Park rushed in. Her usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by an excitement Du-hyun hadn't seen in months. "Commander, Admiral Ta-won has called an emergency council meeting. All high-ranking officers must attend." She took a deep breath. "They're considering option 0. The room went silent. Even the usual beeping of the bridge computers seemed to quiet down. Option 0 had been discussed only once before, in whispered conversations among the highest-ranking officials. It was considered too dangerous, too unpredictable. "They can't be serious," Hin-nul whispered. "The humans, we've avoided contact with them for good reasons." Do-hyun remembered the classified reports about Earth and its people. The humans were violent, unpredictable, and had nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times before reaching the stars. Their weapons were crude but devastating. Their tactics went against every rule of civilized warfare. The Alliance had deliberately avoided their system, marking it as a restricted zone. But they were also survivors. Against all odds, humans had survived countless disasters, wars, and challenges that should have wiped them out. And now, the Alliance needed survivors more than they needed civilized warriors. The emergency council meeting began 30 minutes later. Do-hyun's hologram joined 50 other military leaders in the virtual conference room. Admiral Ta-won's aged face appeared at the head of the table, looking more tired than ever. "My fellow leaders," the Admiral began, his voice grave. "In the past 3 months, we have lost more systems than in the previous 2 years of this war. Our most advanced weapons barely scratch the Dark Void's shields. Our best tactics fail against their overwhelming numbers." He looked around the room. "We are losing this war." No one spoke. No one needed to. The truth hung heavy in the air. "Therefore," Ta-won continued, "I am officially proposing we implement Option 0. We must contact Earth and request their military assistance." The room erupted in voices. Captain Park, seated next to Do-hyun in the real bridge, grabbed his arm. "Sir, the humans' battle tactics. They're horrible. They still use explosive projectiles. They practice psychological warfare. They don't follow any of the civilized combat protocols." "Maybe that's exactly what we need," Do-hyun said quietly, remembering the latest battle. The Alliance's elegant energy weapons had bounced harmlessly off the Dark Void's shields while their cities burned below. Sometimes you need to fight fire with fire. Admiral Ta-won raised his hands for silence. "I understand your concerns. Yes, human warfare is brutal by our standards. Yes, they are unpredictable. But they are also innovative, adaptable, And most importantly, they have never lost a war of survival. He pressed a button, and new images appeared before them. These are classified recordings of human military exercises. Please watch carefully. Do-hyun leaned forward, studying the footage. Human soldiers fighting in conditions that would break most Alliance troops, running toward danger instead of away from it, using their environment as a weapon, turning their enemy's strength against them. It was terrifying and impressive. The vote will now begin, Taiwan announced. Should we implement Option 0 and request human military assistance? Your decision will be recorded in history as either the moment we saved our civilization or the moment we compromised everything we stand for. Do-hyun looked at his console as the voting option appeared. He thought of all the systems they'd lost, all the people they'd failed to protect, all the elegant, civilized battles they'd lost against an enemy that didn't care about fighting fair. His finger hovered over the screen for a moment. Then he pressed yes. One by one, the votes came in. The room remained silent as the numbers appeared in the air. Finally, Admiral Taiwan straightened in his chair. The council has spoken. With a vote of 38 to 12, Option 0 has been approved. He looked older than ever as he spoke the next words. May the stars forgive us if we're wrong. Captain Lee Sun-mai, prepare your fastest ship. You will carry our message to Earth. As the meeting ended, Do-hyun remained in his chair, staring at the star map. Hae-nul approached quietly. Sir, what do you think the humans will say? Do-hyun thought about the footage he'd just seen, the determination in those human soldiers' eyes, the way they seemed to thrive in chaos. I think, he said slowly, they'll say yes, and then everything we know about warfare will change. He turned to his lieutenant. Send word to all ships. Tell them to prepare for unconventional allies. As Hae-nul hurried away, Do-hyun looked once more at the red areas of the map. Soon, he thought, they would learn if human brutality could match dark void cruelty. And he wasn't sure which possibility scared him more, that the humans might fail or that they might succeed. The war was about to change. The only question was, would civilization survive the cure? 3 weeks after the council's vote, Commander Do-hyun stood in the main hangar of the Morning Star *, watching as the first human ships landed. They looked nothing like Alliance vessels. Where Alliance ships were smooth and elegant, these human ships were blocky and covered in what looked like armor plates. They had actual gun turrets sticking out from their sides, something Do-hyun hadn't seen since visiting military museums. They're so primitive, Captain Park whispered beside him. She wasn't wrong. The human ships looked like they belonged in another century. The main ship's door opened with a heavy mechanical sound, and out walked Colonel Kim Ji-woo of the Human Expeditionary Force. She was shorter than Do-hyun expected, but she moved with the confidence of someone who had seen many battles. Her uniform was dark green with actual metal badges pinned to it, not the light-based rank indicators the Alliance used. Commander Do-hyun, she said in clear Alliance standard, walking up to him with her hand extended. Thank you for having us. Her grip was firm, almost too strong. Colonel Kim, Do-hyun replied, hiding his surprise at her strength. Welcome aboard the Morning Star *. We're grateful for Earth's quick response to our request. When someone asks for help fighting space Nazis, we tend to say yes pretty quick, Colonel Kim said with a small smile. Behind her, more human soldiers were exiting their ships, carrying what looked like solid metal weapons. Real guns firing actual bullets. Do-hyun tried not to stare. Lieutenant Hae-nul stepped forward with a tablet. Colonel, we've prepared a briefing on the current situation. Our tactical room is. Actually, Colonel Kim interrupted. I'd like to see your armory first, and then your medical bay. The briefing can wait. Hae-nul looked confused. But the tactical situation will still be there after I see how you fight and how you heal, Colonel Kim said firmly. In my experience, you learn more about an ally by seeing their weapons and their medicine than by looking at their maps. Do-hyun found himself nodding. It made a strange kind of sense. Of course, Colonel. Captain Park will show you to the armory. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Do-hyun noticed how differently the human soldiers moved compared to Alliance troops. They were constantly looking around, noting exits, checking corners. Even in a safe ship, they acted like they were in enemy territory. The ship's armory impressed no one but the Alliance personnel. Colonel Kim looked at their energy rifles and sonic stunners with polite interest, but Do-hyun could see she wasn't impressed. "These are your main weapons?" she asked, picking up an energy rifle. "Clean, efficient, very civilized." She set it down carefully. "But they don't do much against the Dark Void's shields, do they?" "No," Captain Park admitted. "Their new shielding technology seems to absorb or deflect most energy-based weapons." Colonel Kim gestured to one of her soldiers, who brought forward what looked like a large metal tube. "This is what we call a railgun. It doesn't fire energy. It fires this." She held up a metal spike the size of her hand, at about 30 times the speed of sound. The Alliance officers stared at the primitive-looking weapon. "But that's so basic," Hae-Newell said. "Just metal and speed." "Sometimes basic is better," Colonel Kim said. "Energy shields are great at stopping energy. They're not so great at stopping 20 kilos of tungsten moving at Mach 30. She smiled. "We brought a few thousand of these, plus some other toys I think you'll find interesting." The medical bay visit was equally eye-opening. The human doctor, Major Ryu, looked around at the Alliance's regeneration pods and cellular repair beams with interest. "Very nice," she said. "Very clean. But what happens when the power fails?" "When the what?" The Alliance medical officer looked confused. "Our backup systems can also fail," Major Ryu finished. She opened a large case she brought with her. Inside were what looked like springs and metal rods. "These go inside the body. They hold bones together. They work without power. Sometimes old solutions are the best solutions." The tour ended in the tactical room, where Colonel Kim finally agreed to hear the briefing. As Hae-Newell displayed the current battle lines, the human officers took notes on actual paper with real pens. "The Dark Void fleet is here," Hae-Newell explained, pointing to a cluster of red dots. "They're preparing to attack the Centauri system. We expect them to." "Why haven't you attacked them first?" Colonel Kim interrupted. The room went silent. "Attacked first?" Do-hyun asked. "But they haven't made a hostile move yet." Colonel Kim stood up and walked to the map. "They're clearly preparing to attack. In their last 5 battles, they've followed the same pattern. Why wait for them to be ready?" She turned to face the Alliance officers. "You fight like you're in a duel, waiting for the enemy to be ready. Taking turns. Very honorable." She shook her head. "But this isn't a duel. It's a war." Do-hyun felt a chill. He'd read about human warfare, but seeing it in person was different. "What do you suggest, Colonel?" Kim pointed to several spots on the map. "Give me 12 hours to get my ships in position. I'll show you how humans fight when everything is at stake." She looked around the room. "Just remember, you asked for our help. Don't be surprised when we give it to you in our way." As the meeting ended and the humans left to prepare, Captain Park turned to Do-hyun. "Sir, their weapons, their tactics, they're so primitive, so brutal. Can we really fight alongside them?" Do-hyun watched Colonel Kim walking away, already discussing plans with her officers. "Captain, we've spent years fighting this war like civilized people, and we're losing." He touched the map, where another Alliance world glowed red with defeat. "Maybe it's time to try fighting like survivors instead." In his quarters that night, Do-hyun read more about Earth's military history, about how humans had gone from fighting with sticks to splitting atoms in just a few thousand years, about how they turned everything into a weapon. The ground, the weather, even their own bodies. His computer beeped with a message from Colonel Kim. "Battle plan ready. Warning, you may not like it." Do-hyun took a deep breath and opened the file. As he read, his eyes widened. The humans planned to hit the Dark Void fleet while they were still gathering. No warning, no chance to prepare, just sudden, overwhelming violence. It was brutal, uncivilized, against everything the Alliance stood for. It might just work. He sent back one word: approved. Tomorrow, the Dark Void Empire would learn what happened when you pushed humanity into a corner. Do-hyun almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The battle began at what humans called Zero Dark 30, the darkest part of the night cycle. Lieutenant Yoon-ho and his human special forces team moved silently through the maintenance tunnels of the Dark Void command station. They weren't supposed to be here. The station's sensors showed no intruders. No alarms rang. The Dark Void didn't even know they were under attack yet. Team 2 in position. Yoon-ho whispered into his radio. He checked his old-fashioned watch, a piece of technology the Alliance had laughed at until they realized it couldn't be hacked or jammed like their digital systems. Team 1 ready, came the quiet reply from another tunnel. Team 3 in place. Colonel Kim's voice crackled in their earpieces. Execute. Yoon-ho pulled out what looked like a metal ball from his pack. It was a human weapon called a grenade. Simple, brutal, and perfect for their needs. He rolled it toward the power junction ahead, then pressed his team against the walls and covered his ears. The explosion wasn't large, but in the confined space of the tunnel, it did its job. The junction exploded in a shower of sparks. Across the station, 2 other teams did the same thing at exactly the same moment. Up in space, Commander Do-hyun watched from the bridge of the Morning Star as sections of the massive Dark Void command station went dark. Captain Park stood beside him, gripping the railing tightly. "I can't believe this is working," she whispered. "Their security systems should have caught this." "They were looking for energy weapons and Alliance tech," Do-hyun said. "They weren't prepared for humans using explosives and old radio signals." He turned to his tactical officer. "Are their shields down?" "Partially, sir. The human teams knocked out 3 of their 5 power cores." Do-hyun nodded and opened a channel to Colonel Kim's ship. "Colonel, you have your opening." "Copy that, Commander," Kim replied. "Watch and learn how humans deal with space nazis." The human ships moved forward. They didn't look elegant or graceful like Alliance vessels. They looked like what they were, weapons built for war. Their railguns extended from armored housings. Missile tubes opened along their sides. The Dark Void ships were just beginning to respond to the attack on their station when the humans opened fire. Streams of hypervelocity metal slugs tore through space. The Dark Void's energy shields, designed to stop energy weapons, struggled against simple kinetic force. Where they held, the humans simply fired more rounds until they broke. "By the stars," Hae-Nul breathed, watching the battle unfold. "They're not even trying to disable the ships. They're just destroying them." "That's the point," Do-hyun said quietly. "Humans don't fight to disable. They fight to win." Inside the station, Yoon-ho's team was proving that point. They moved through corridors like ghosts, placing small charges at key points. Any Dark Void soldiers they encountered were dealt with quickly and permanently. No warning shots, no chances for surrender, just quick, efficient violence. "Sir," Captain Park called out, "3 Dark Void battleships are moving to support the station." Do-hyun smiled. "Right on schedule, Colonel Kim." "We see them," Kim replied. Initiating Operation Trojan. The human ships suddenly scattered, seemingly in panic. The Dark Void ships moved to pursue, their superior engines quickly closing the gap. They didn't notice the small objects the human ships had left behind. Mines, Hae-Nul realized. They dropped actual space mines. The explosions lit up space like new stars being born. 2 of the Dark Void battleships simply ceased to exist. The 3rd spun out of control, its engines dead. Inside the station, Yoon-ho reached the final objective, the main reactor control room. His team had lost 2 members getting here, but they completed their mission. They placed their charges and began to withdraw. All teams, clear the station, Yun Ho ordered. We have 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, the remaining human teams extracted themselves from the station using simple rope and mechanical grappling hooks. Technology so basic the Dark Void's sensors didn't even register it as technology. The station exploded from within as the charges detonated in sequence. No energy weapons, no advanced technology, just carefully placed explosives and human determination. Status report. Do-hyun called out as the debris field expanded. Dark Void command station destroyed. 3 battleships eliminated. Remaining enemy forces are in retreat. Captain Park's voice held a mix of awe and horror. Sir, we just won a major battle. In under an hour. Colonel Kim's face appeared on the main screen. She was smiling, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator. Commander, would you like to begin Phase 2? Do-hyun looked at his officers. They had all seen what human warfare looked like now. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't civilized. But it worked. Yes, Colonel. Begin Phase 2. Over the next 12 hours, human and Alliance forces struck 7 more Dark Void positions. The humans never fought fair. They never gave warning. They used every dirty trick they knew. Every lesson learned from thousands of years of warfare on Earth. They attacked during rest cycles. They targeted power systems and life support. They used electromagnetic pulses to fry electronics, then boarded ships with soldiers wielding shotguns, weapons that hadn't changed much in 500 years because they still worked just fine. Lieutenant Hae-Nul documented everything. Sir, he reported to Do-hyun after the last battle, I've analyzed the human combat footage. They're not just fighting. They're learning, adapting. Every battle, they find new ways to hurt the enemy. Do-hyun nodded. He had seen it too. The humans took everything they learned about Dark Void technology and turned it into a weakness to exploit. When energy shields proved strong against frontal attacks, they started using angles and ricochets. When Dark Void armor resisted normal weapons, they developed new ammunition. It's beautiful in a terrible way, Captain Park said, watching a replay of the battles. They're so creative about violence. A message came in from Colonel Kim. Commander, my teams have analyzed the Dark Void wreckage. We found something interesting. Request meeting in 1 hour. In the tactical room, Kim showed them what her soldiers had discovered. The Dark Void's technology is advanced, but it's inflexible. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations. She pointed to various pieces of salvaged equipment. Look at these systems. Everything is optimized for fighting a specific way, the civilized way. They never expected anyone to fight dirty. And humans excel at fighting dirty, Do-hyun said. Kim nodded. It's what we do best. Give us a rule book, and we'll figure out what isn't in it. Show us a weapon, and we'll figure out how to use it wrong. She looked at the Alliance officers. That's why you're losing this war. You're fighting by the rules. Rules that the Dark Void helped write, knowing what they were building to counter them. Do-hyun thought about Earth's history, about how humans had survived and thrived despite everything that should have killed them. Then we need to stop fighting by their rules. Exactly. Kim's smile was fierce. Commander, with your permission, I'd like to start teaching your troops how to fight like humans. It won't be pretty. It won't be honorable. But it will keep them alive. Do-hyun looked at his officers. They had all seen what happened today. How human brutality had accomplished in hours what Alliance tactics couldn't do in months. Teach us, he said simply. The war was changing, and with it the Alliance was changing too. They were learning that sometimes survival meant letting go of civilization's rules. Sometimes it meant becoming what you feared. Sometimes it meant becoming human. Captain Lee Sunmei sat in her fighter's cockpit, watching her students practice their attack runs. 6 months ago, these Alliance pilots would have flown in perfect formation, following every rule of space combat. Now they flew like humans, Wild, unpredictable, and deadly. Better, she said into her radio. But you're still thinking too much. Humans don't fly with their computers. They fly with their gut. The Alliance pilots adjusted their approach, their ships dancing through space in patterns that would have horrified their old flight instructors. Sunma smiled. They were learning. On the bridge of the Morning Star Commander Do-hyun watched another Dark Void fleet retreat from battle. In the 6 months since the humans arrived, they hadn't just changed how the Alliance fought. They had changed how the Alliance thought about fighting. Status report. He called out to his crew. Enemy forces are in full retreat. Lieutenant Hae-Nul reported. They lost 12 ships. We lost 3. He paused. Sir, they're leaving their damaged ships behind again. Do-hyun nodded. Standard human protocol. Rescue the enemy crews. Colonel Kim's teams are already on it, Captain Park answered. They're using the new boarding pods. The boarding pods were another human invention. Simple metal containers fired from ships like bullets. Inside each pod were 4 soldiers with basic equipment, breaching charges, mechanical weapons, and medical kits. Nothing fancy, nothing that could be stopped by high-tech defenses. Commander, Colonel Kim's voice came over the comm. You might want to come see what we found on one of their ships. In the captured Dark Void vessel's engine room, Kim showed Do-hyun what her teams had discovered. The ship's power core was different from anything they'd seen before. They're upgrading their technology, Kim explained, learning from their defeats, just like we did on Earth. She pointed to new shield generators. See these? They're designed to stop physical projectiles now. They're adapting to our railguns. Do-hyun felt a chill. So our current tactics won't work much longer. Kim smiled. Exactly, which is why we need to change them again. She pulled out a tablet. I've been working with Captain Lee Sunma on some new ideas that combine human aggression with Alliance technology. The plan she showed him made Do-hyun's eyes widen. The humans wanted to take Alliance energy weapons, elegant tools designed for precise strikes, and turn them into something else. Something brutal. These modifications, he said slowly, they go against every safety protocol we have. Safety protocols are for peacetime, Kim replied. This is war. The Dark Void adapts to defeat our weapons. We must adapt faster. Later that day, Do-hyun called a meeting with his senior officers. The humans had changed them all. Hae-Nul no longer wore his perfectly pressed uniform. Park had stopped using her computer for everything, keeping paper notes as backup. They all carried primitive projectile weapons now, even on the ship. The Dark Void is learning, Do-hyun began. Their new shields can stop our current weapons. Colonel Kim has a solution, but he showed them the plans. The room went quiet. Captain Park spoke first. Sir, these modifications would make our weapons unstable, dangerous to the users. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. Like human weapons often are. But they would also punch through the new Dark Void shields. Lieutenant Yoon-ho, who had worked closely with the human special forces, stood up. His left arm was now mechanical, a prosthetic the humans had given him after a battle injury. It was crude compared to Alliance medical technology, but it worked without power and couldn't be hacked. Sir, he said, before the humans came, I would have said this was madness. But I fought beside them now. Their ways seem brutal because they are brutal. But they survive. They win. He flexed his mechanical fingers. We need to decide what matters more, keeping our hands clean or keeping our people alive. The debate lasted hours. In the end, they voted to approve the modifications. Alliance engineering teams worked alongside human technicians, turning elegant energy weapons into something new, something terrible. They tested the new weapons at a remote asteroid field. The modified energy rifles now fired blasts that exploded on impact, sending shrapnel through shields. The ship-mounted cannons created temporary tears in space itself. It wasn't clean. It wasn't precise. But it worked. "We're becoming more like them," Captain Park said quietly, watching the test footage. "No," Commander Do-hyun corrected her. "We're becoming survivors. Like them." The change wasn't just in their weapons. Alliance soldiers started training like humans, fighting in dirty conditions, learning to use anything as a weapon, preparing for everything to go wrong. The elegant training simulators were replaced with physical obstacle courses. Soldiers learned to fight with injuries, to keep going when their technology failed. Captain Lee's son Mi documented everything in her personal logs. Day 180 since human arrival. "Today I watched an Alliance pilot ram his damaged ship into a Dark Void cruiser's engines. 6 months ago, we would have called this barbaric. Today we called it brave." The humans are teaching us that survival isn't always pretty. Victory isn't always clean. Sometimes you have to embrace the darkness to fight the dark. The Dark Void Empire noticed the change. Their attacks became more cautious. Their fleet started avoiding direct confrontation. For the first time in the war, they seemed afraid. "They should be afraid," Colonel Kim told Do-hyun during a strategy meeting. "They're fighting humans now. And humans have something they don't understand: desperation. We know what it's like to face extinction. We know what it takes to survive it." Do-hyun looked at his crew, at how much they had changed. "We understand it now, too." The next battle proved him right. When the Dark Void attacked with their new shielded ships, they expected their upgraded technology to protect them. Instead, they met an Alliance fleet fighting with human fury. Ships rammed through shields that could stop energy but not mass. Modified weapons tore holes in space itself. Soldiers kept fighting even when their systems were fried, using backup mechanical weapons. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. After it was over, Do-hyun stood in his quarters, looking at his reflection. His uniform was dirty. He carried a human pistol on his hip. There were scars on his face from when he'd kept fighting after his bridge was breached. "What have we become?" he whispered to himself. The answer came from his memories of Earth's history. They had become survivors. And survivors weren't always pretty. They weren't always clean. But they were alive. The war wasn't over. But for the first time, Do-hyun knew they would win. Not because they had better technology or stronger ships, but because the humans had taught them something more important than how to fight. They had taught them how to survive at any cost. And that was something the Dark Void Empire would never understand until it was too late. 1 year after the humans arrived, the combined Alliance human fleet gathered for the final push into Dark Void space. Commander Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Morningstar, looking at his crew. They weren't the same people who had desperately called for Earth's help a year ago. They were stronger now, harder. Survivors. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Hae-Newell announced. Like everyone else, he now carried both an Alliance energy pistol and a human revolver. The energy pistol might fail. The revolver never would. "Colonel Kim's forces are in position," Captain Park added. She had traded her clean officer's uniform for a battle-worn combat suit designed by human engineers. It wasn't pretty, but it would keep her alive. Do-hyun opened a channel to all ships. "This is Commander Do-hyun. 1 year ago, we faced defeat. We were losing our worlds, our people, our hope. Then we met the humans." He paused, remembering how shocked they had been by human warfare. "They taught us that survival isn't about having the best technology or the most elegant tactics. It's about never giving up, never stopping, never accepting defeat." On the main screen, Colonel Kim nodded. Her ship, Earth's Revenge floated next to the Morningstar. It was covered in battle scars and makeshift repairs. Like all human ships, it wasn't pretty, but it was deadly. "The Dark Void Empire thought they could break us," Do-hyun continued. "They thought their advanced technology would guarantee victory. But they never understood what humans taught us, that the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a ship. It's the will to survive." Captain Lee's son Mi's voice came over the comm from her fighter squadron. All pilots ready, sir. We'll hit them the human way. Hard and without warning. The attack began like all human attacks, not with a formal declaration of war or a chance for surrender, but with pure violence. Special Forces teams led by Lieutenant Yunho had already infiltrated key Dark Void installations using simple mechanical tools that their high-tech sensors couldn't detect. The first the Dark Void knew of the attack was when their power cores exploded. Their shields flickered and died. Their sophisticated defense networks crashed, destroyed by human computer viruses that were too primitive for their advanced systems to detect. Main fleet, advance. Du Hyun ordered. The combined fleet moved forward. Alliance ships now had human-style armor welded to their hulls. Their elegant energy weapons had been modified with human engineering, turning them into brutal tools of destruction. They didn't fire precise beams anymore. They fired storms of energy that ripped through space itself. Colonel Kim's voice crackled over the comm. Remember your training. Don't fight fair. Don't fight clean. Fight to win. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The Alliance fleet, once known for its precise and civilized combat style, fought with human fury. Ships rammed through enemy formations. Modified weapons created chaos in enemy ranks. Soldiers boarded enemy vessels using simple grappling hooks and breaching charges. Captain Park monitored the battle from her station. Sir, the Dark Void fleet is trying to regroup. They're falling back to their defensive lines. Just as planned, Du Hyun said. Colonel Kim. Phase 2, beginning now, Kim replied. From hidden positions around the battlefield, human ships launched what they called their secret weapon. It wasn't high technology. It wasn't even a proper weapon. It was thousands of small metal boxes, each containing a simple mechanical timer and a lot of explosives. Mines. A Dark Void commander's panicked voice came over an open channel. They're using mines in space. That's barbaric. That's human, Du Hyun replied before cutting the channel. The mines detonated in sequence, creating a wave of destruction that ripped through the Dark Void formation. Their advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against simple kinetic force. Their sophisticated sensors, looking for high-tech threats, had ignored the primitive devices. Lieutenant Haenul's console lit up with new readings. Sir, the Dark Void Supreme Commander is requesting communication. On the main screen, the Dark Void leader appeared. They looked different from the Alliance races, darker, with multiple eyes and gray skin. But for the first time, Du Hyun saw something familiar in those alien eyes. Fear. This isn't warfare, the Dark Void commander protested. You're breaking every rule of civilized combat. Colonel Kim stepped into view of the camera. There are no rules in survival. You pushed us into a corner. You threatened our existence. Now you learn why humans are still alive after everything that should have killed us. We'll adapt, the Dark Void commander warned. We'll build better shields, better weapons. No, Du Hyun said quietly. You won't have time. He nodded to Captain Park. Show them what else we learned from the humans. Park pressed a button, and across the battlefield, Alliance ships launched their final weapon. It looked like regular missiles, but inside each one was a piece of human history, a lesson learned from Earth's darkest days. Nanites, Kim explained to the horrified Dark Void commander. Microscopic machines that eat through metal and circuits. Primitive by your standards. Too primitive for your defenses to stop. Another human invention born from desperation. They watched as the Dark Void ships began to fall apart, their mighty technology helpless against the simple but devastating human weapon. Wait, the Dark Void commander cried. We surrender. We'll give you anything you want. Do Hyun looked at Colonel Kim, who nodded. Surrender accepted, he said, on our terms. After the battle, Do Hyun sat in his quarters writing his final report. The war is over, he wrote. We won, not because we had better technology, but because we learned from humans what it truly means to fight for survival. They taught us that sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. That desperation breeds innovation. That survival isn't about being the most advanced. It's about being the most determined. There was a knock at his door. Colonel Kim entered, carrying 2 glasses and a bottle of what humans called whiskey. Another primitive but effective human invention. To victory, she said, pouring the drinks. To survival, Du Hyun corrected, taking a glass. You know, when we first called Earth for help, we thought we were getting barbarians. We were wrong. We weren't getting barbarians. We were getting survivors. Teachers. Kim smiled. And now you're survivors too. That's the real victory here, not defeating the Dark Void, but learning how to ensure they never threaten you again. By becoming more like humans, by remembering what we taught you, that survival isn't pretty. It isn't clean, but it's better than the alternative. They drank in silence, watching through the window as repair ships worked on the battle-damaged fleet. Alliance engineers worked alongside human technicians, combining their advanced technology with human practical experience. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. And in the end, that was the greatest lesson the humans had taught them. Sometimes working was better than elegant. Sometimes surviving was better than being civilized. Sometimes the most advanced civilization wasn't the one with the best technology, but the one that remembered how to survive when technology failed. The Alliance had learned this lesson well. They would never forget it. And the galaxy would never be the same.